Page 71, Lazy Chord Blues. On page 70, they're introducing you to a dotted quarter note. Let's talk dotted quarter note. Oh, goody. Now, some people, they tend to make this hard. Okay, it's not hard. Just keep it simple, sort of. We already have dotted half notes, and dotted notes work the same. It doesn't matter what the value of the note is. They all work the same way. The dot gets half the value of the note. You've had the dotted half notes all along, and look at Lazy Chord Blues. It's in 4/4 time. In the right hand, you got dotted half notes. Well, the half note gets 2 counts in 4/4 time. That means the dot gets 1 count because it gets half the value of the note, and you put them together, and it's 3 counts total. That's the dotted half note. We've had these for a while. Dotted quarter note's the same way. A quarter note gets 1 count in 4/4 time. That means the dot gets a half a count. It's like the same as an eighth note. And you tie them together, so that's 1.5 counts for the dotted quarter note. So if you look at on Lazy Chord Blues, in the left at the bottom staff, you see the dotted quarter notes, and they put in the counting for you. 1 and 2 and, well, 1 and, that's 1 beat. 2, that's the dot, and the and is the eighth note. 1 and 2 and. That's dotted quarter notes. That's any dotted note you can figure out real quick. Just now, it helps some people get a grasp. They still don't get it. If they have some melody they're familiar with that uses, and they get, oh, is that how the dotted rhythm goes? But I would prefer you really understand how it works, and that's how it works. The dot gets half the value of the note. But if you look at the bottom of page 70, they have a couple well-known melodies. They have one for the right hand and one for the left hand at the bottom of page 70. Either hand can play these, it doesn't matter. But it's the first one is, it's a very famous melody by Mozart. Well, the dotted rhythm is dotted. Those are dotted rhythms. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Because the quarter note comes on beat 1, the dot comes on beat 2, because the quarter note takes a whole beat. The dot comes on beat 2, and then the eighth note comes on the end of 2. 1 and 2 and. And the second one, the Silent Night. This is a very famous melody for Christmas time. Same thing. 1 and 2 and 3. So yes, the quarter note comes on beat 1. The dot comes on beat 2 because the quarter note takes a whole beat. And so the eighth note has to come on the end of 2. And it doesn't have to be an eighth note. You see, on a dotted rhythm, here it's on beat 1, so therefore the quarter note would get beat 1, the whole beat. The dot gets half a beat 2 because it's just half of. Something has to come on the end of 2. It doesn't have to be an eighth note. It could be something else. But something has to come there. There has to be something there. It could be a rest. No. But something has to come on the end of 2. 1 and 2 and. See, there has to be something on the end. And that's how dotted rhythms work. Let's go back to Lazy Chord Blues. Let's look this over. 3 lines long, treble bass clef. We're in the key of C major. Go do the C major scale like I should be going 2 octaves up and down on that. 4/4 time. Okay, we got dotted half notes, quarter notes, dotted quarter notes, eighth notes. One hand at a time. Let's make sure we have the notes, the rhythm. We're not moving around in the right hand too much, so most of it's going to be here in C position. You have a few accidentals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. The E flat, I had E, third finger on E, I put it on E flat. 2, 3. And you want to get to where you can play that E flat without having to look at the keyboard. You just kind of know where it is. 1, 2, 3. This measure 4. 1 and 2. And in measure 4, both of those E's are flatted. Remember the rule? It's good for the rest of the measure. So both E's are flatted. Let's go down to the last measure. It's a 1, 2, 3, and then you have a B flat and an E. You have to figure out what the notes are first. Now, rhythm-wise, it's just a quarter note, although it has a fermata. I'll come back to that later. Then we have to figure out the fingering. All right, they give you two fingerings there in the little bubbles. The little bubble thing, the circle things, is their way of telling you have to move the hand. You're not going to get bubbles in music when you see finger numbers. You have to figure out, oh, I got to move the hand. But they give you two finger numbers, which means you have a choice. You can do it 1-3, come up here and get 1-3, or 1-4, 1-4. Either way. If you don't want to be up here, then you got to put the second finger on that and go 5. I'll give you another one. It's 2-5. So I'm here. I like 2-5 because I can come across the thumb here. Relax, you can move. And it's right here, 2-5. I like 2-5 best. Otherwise, you got to move the thumb again. You pick a fingering, and if it's different than that, pencil it in and stick with it. Or your teacher will pick a fingering for you. That helps too. Left hand, well, you got the C chords. Really, we got the primary chords pretty much. You got the C chord in measure 1, and second one, you got the F chord of the 4 chord, 1 chord, 4. And measure 7, you get the 5-7 chord or the G7 chord, and then the last one's 4. I think I gave you the answers for little boxes. They want you to put in the chord number, I'm assuming, in the box, the Roman numeral. Yeah, the 1, 4, 5, okay. And then the rhythm, 1 and 2 and 3, because the half note comes on beat 3. So this dotted thing's got to come on the first 2 beats. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. And that's the rhythm pretty much. Put the hands together. Here, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and you go through and put it together. And when you can do it without the hesitations or anything, then we'll go back and think about the articulation. They don't give you a lot. You get a staccato at the end in the left hand. Just hinge at the wrist, bounce off the keys. Boom. And you get the fermatas there at the end. Now, you see a fermata in each staff? And they're not under each other. That's because the notes are not under each other. So you have to figure out, who am I holding? Well, generally, you'll be holding the smaller note. And the other note, you just hold out as long as it takes to stay with the other hand. So in the last measure, on the last 2 beats, I have a half note with a fermata. And then I have the quarter note with a fermata. Well, I'm going to hold the half note however long I got to hold it to stay with the right hand. And it's the right hand fermata that will determine how long I hold them. The beat, the 4th beat, the quarter note comes on the 4th beat. In other words, you don't hold the half note out before you play the 4. I don't go 1, 2, 3, I hold that and then do that. No, I keep the beat going until I get to the quarter note. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I hold it out. However long I think it should be held out, or until I get tired, I listen to that, and then I lift up. That's the rhythm on these. So when the hands have different values like this, then it's one hand will control how long both hands hold. Now, you can, if you want, put in the phrasing. They didn't give you any, but if you can hear the sentences, if you can figure out where the musical thoughts are, then you can put in the phrasing. So I have to speed it up so I can hear the sentences here at the right hand. And you just do the melodies while we're... Well, it's almost like one sentence through the whole thing. However, you can, if you want, measure 5. When you're playing like you did at the beginning, the same thing, that could be a new sentence there. So, however, I don't think I would want to break it. I don't want to hear. So I'll probably just end up connecting it all together. So much for the articulation. Then the dynamics. Well, it goes to the melody, which is the right hand. Whatever you think mezzo piano is, moderately soft, sort of soft. These chords need to be soft. At the end of the line, they give you the hairpin. Well, that's silly on piano. I don't know what they're thinking. Once you play the note, you can't crescendo. The piano takes it, it's diminuendo. You don't get a choice. So I think what they've done, and many times they'll do this, is they don't put the hairpin exactly where it goes. So you have to figure out what's going on. I think the hairpin belongs in front of the quarter note. That way you can play the quarter note a little louder. You're starting to crescendo with the quarter note up to the moderately loud in measure 4. So ba-da. But moderately loud is measure 4. You think 2 here. But the quarter note will be louder than the dotted half note. So I would move that hairpin over a little bit and start the crescendo at the quarter note. So that third measure is here. A little louder. Now. See, so I play that quarter note a little louder and then come back down. And for the last 2 beats of measure 4, that's the moderately loud, and then come down a little bit, and now moderately soft. Yeah. You see, when you start a hairpin like this, you're at whatever dynamic level you've been at. Don't change it. At the beginning of a hairpin, don't change the dynamic level there. Wait until you get into the hairpin and then start changing it. So in measure 4, that F, that's at the beginning of the hairpin. It's still moderately loud. Now I come down a little bit. Now moderately soft. And then in measure 7, you're moderately soft. And you go up to moderately loud on the 8th note. That's moderately loud. And then back to softer, and back down to moderately soft. Very soft. And you can do this at soft. Yeah, softly. Yeah. You got to feel these dynamics. Get into it so you can feel these crescendos and diminuendos and so forth. And then, of course, the speed. Well, slow blues tempo, just a slow tempo. It's not 1, 2. Get that? Just a leisurely slow tempo. However, if it's really going to be a blues tempo, then we need to do it in a blues style. Because blues, swing, and jazz, those genres or styles of music, they have a particular way they're played. And you just automatically do it. You're not going to get instructions in the music. You just do it. It's part of interpreting the music. And that is, we swing the counting. We don't go 1 and 2 and 3 and so forth. We go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. You swing it. You feel it. There's no notation for it. You have to feel it. It's not a dotted rhythm. It's not a triplet rhythm. We haven't had triplets yet. You don't have to worry about it. But it's just a felt thing. So on this 1 and 2 and 3, so it's not exactly 1 and 2 and 3. The 8th note ends up being just a little bit shorter. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So in measure 4, 1 and 2. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. That's a blues tempo. So you do it that way. There's a ritardo there at the end. You slow that down a little bit. Now, they didn't give you any 8th notes there at the end, and that's the only thing you're swinging is 8th notes. But if you were to play a piece in a blues style and they had 8th notes there at the end, when you slow it down, you even out the counting. You don't do a long short anymore. You go back to the 1 and 2 and, because it doesn't work on a slow. If I go really, really, really slow, 1 and 2 and 3, it doesn't swing. So there's a minimum how fast and how slow you can go when you swing the rhythm. In this piece, it doesn't matter because you don't get 8th notes at the end. Let's play this slowly together. Probably about the speed it goes, really. I'll give us 4 counts. Now, I'm not going to do any dynamics because we're just checking notes and rhythms. And at the end, the fermata on the quarter note, I'm going to hold that 2 counts instead of 1 and then lift up. And I am going to swing the rhythm because this is a blues piece. 1 and 2 and 3 and go. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 2 and 2 and 2.